Jealousy can drive people in love to act viciously. Unfortunately, in this heartbreaking instance from Austin, Texas, a lack of emotional control from someone who should have known better resulted in a disturbing incident. And the primary suspect even attempted to get away with it, but can they truly escape the consequences? Let's delve deeper into the case. Anna Mariah Wilson, also known as Mo, was a 25-year-old overachiever from Vermont, New Hampshire. She had a degree in engineering by 2019 and was passionate about cooking, writing, traveling, and all things related to Italy. Mo was particularly fond of Taco Tuesdays, delicious maple ice cream, and playing board games with her closest friends. However, her greatest passion was competitive cycling, specifically gravel racing, which is a challenging off-road sport. Mo was exceptionally talented in the sport and was considered a true badass by one of her good friends. One of her good friends said, "She was just dominating cycling in a way nobody typically does. She won the biggest race of the year so far today by almost a half hour." In 2022, Mariah turned professional in cycling after achieving a lot of success. She even quit her full-time job to participate in major cycling races. However, Mariah's main goal was to use her accomplishments to improve the lives of others. She wanted to inspire young female athletes and people from different backgrounds to find happiness and meaning through sports and community. Mariah had recently started seeing a fellow cyclist named Colin Strickland, but it is unclear whether they were just good friends or dating. Her family was very sure she wasn't dating anyone at that point. After all, she had a big race to worry about instead. Now, after their swim and enjoying a burger together, Colin dropped her off at her friend's house on May 11, 2022, the night before her next race near Austin, Texas. Some speculate that there was more to their relationship, but it's best to believe that they were just hanging out. Mariah was staying with her friend, likely trying to get some rest before her big race in Hico, Texas. Unfortunately, tragedy struck that same night. While Mariah was swimming with Colin, her friend Caitlin returned from dinner around 10 p.m. and found Mariah badly injured and bleeding on the bathroom floor from several gunshot wounds. It was determined that Mariah had been shot multiple times, some while she was already on the ground, and despite the best efforts of paramedics, she did not survive. Law enforcement quickly labeled her death a homicide. Mariah's mother, Karen Wilson, described the situation, saying, "This is like the 9/11 of our life, leaving many wondering who could have committed such a heinous act and whether they would ever be brought to justice." The initial suspect in Mariah's case was naturally her possible ex-boyfriend, Colin Strickland. Unfortunately, the authorities often start with the partner or ex in such cases because they are frequently the culprit. Not all partners are guilty, but it's far too common for it to be the case. However, the situation in this case wasn't as straightforward as it appeared, and Colin claimed he had left Mariah safe and sound at the house. He had a strong alibi, and the police realized that someone else was involved. After analyzing security footage and ringing doorbell cameras in the area, they found a crucial piece of evidence. A large black SUV had arrived just after Colin left the house. It didn't take long for them to trace the owner, a former yoga instructor and real estate flipper named Caitlin Armstrong. Caitlin had been Colin's girlfriend for 3 years, but they took a break in October 2021, and that's when Colin met Mariah. They both shared a love of competitive cycling and had a lot in common, but Colin claimed their relationship only lasted a few weeks before he reunited with Caitlin, and everything was back to normal. Although the police initially suspected Colin, they turned their attention to Caitlin after finding the SUV in the footage. Despite the relationship ending, Someone who spoke to the police anonymously claimed that Colin and Mariah were still seeing each other, indicating that the relationship didn't end as cleanly as it should have. Regardless of what happened, Caitlin had heard about Colin and Mariah's hookup and was furious. Her jealousy led her to buy a firearm. The situation was made even messier by the fact that Colin and Mariah remained good friends, which only fueled Caitlin's jealousy. She grew so toxic that Colin had to hide Mariah's phone calls and texts under a different name on his phone, as Caitlin was blocking Mariah's number. This was a red flag for both sides of the relationship, making it easier for the police to start investigating. They brought Caitlin in for questioning on another warrant, which was for theft. She was arrested for a $650 Botox bill. So during the questioning, the investigators asked her about her black SUV being spotted in the area right before the shooting. Surprisingly, Caitlin just rolled her eyes and pretty much ignored the question. She remained quiet and her body language was very still during the interview, and she didn't deny the fact that the SUV belonged to her. However, her date of birth was wrongly written on her arrest warrant, so they couldn't get her data. A few days after the interview on May 17, 2022, the police decided to search her property, and that was when they found the same firearm that ended poor Mariah's life. Apparently, it was a significant match, so you've probably guessed the killer. Unfortunately, a week later, when the police were ready to charge her with murder, Caitlin disappeared. After discovering that Caitlin had fled to Costa Rica, investigators learned that she had changed her appearance and used her sister's passport, which bore a striking resemblance to her own. As a result, they were now in pursuit of a real fugitive. Caitlin proved to be surprisingly resourceful, selling her car to fund her new life and residing in a hostel to stretch her $12,000 as far as possible. Her living arrangements were modest, with a simple red bunk bed on the lower level. It was certainly a frugal way of life. She was doing everything possible to stay off the radar, with law enforcement officials believing that by going to a foreign country, she could escape apprehension. After changing her appearance, including cutting her hair short and dyeing it dark brown hair, Caitlin quickly established a new life for herself in the remote town of Santa Teresa, Costa Rica. She found work at the Don John Surf and Yoga Lodge, a luxury retreat frequented by celebrities like Tom Brady and Giselle, but perhaps not as low-key as she had hoped. Despite the expense, Caitlin even underwent plastic surgery, with the receipt for her nose job costing over $6,000, half of her on-the-run money, though it didn't seem to be worth it. Nevertheless, Caitlin attempted to earn back some of the money by learning a new skill and practicing yoga. Despite her careful planning, Caitlin was eventually caught due to her case becoming a major one. This led to an influx of resources from the U.S. Marshals being used to track her down. Footage of her boarding a plane from Newark Airport was uncovered, which allowed investigators to trace the fake passport she used. She was soon located and arrested by Costa Rican police officers on June 29, 2022, after being on the run for 7 weeks. According to witness Zachary Paulson, he said, "She was asking about cheaper ways to get around before being apprehended by the police." Caitlin was quickly deported back to the United States, where she would have to explain her actions. There is always a risk of a loophole during an arrest if it seems like the police didn't follow proper procedure. In this instance, the police failed to read Caitlin her Miranda rights, which is a common element of police movies and TV shows. Caitlin's lawyers are using this error to their advantage and are attempting to suppress or invalidate some important evidence in the case, as they argue that it was obtained without the appropriate warrant. As of the time of this video, there is still an opportunity to rectify the situation. The trial is scheduled to take place on June 23, 2023, and although I'm eager to hear the verdict, I still cannot say for certain whether Caitlin Armstrong is guilty or innocent. Despite the suspicious actions she was caught engaging in, it's important to remember the principle of innocent until proven guilty. It can be frustrating when a suspect seems guilty, but we must wait for the legal process to play out. Perhaps in the future, people should avoid hiding in countries with extradition treaties, as seen in a previous case involving a suspect who fled to Nicaragua. Well, for now, Mariah's family is still recovering from the traumatic event that occurred to her in early 2023. It was so senseless and so tragic, and she sounds like she was kind of an amazing person. In 2015, she wrote that she wanted to be the kind of person that picks other people up when they fall, and who's there for people when they need support, encouragement, and inspiration. Alright guys, that's all for today. What are your thoughts on this case? If Caitlin is innocent, why do you think she fled? Share your opinions with me by leaving a comment below. Bye for now. Also, do well to give a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button.